All right, welcome back to Boy Things Podcast. I'm Kareem Boy Things. Now, today's show focuses on a thought-provoking journey into one of humanity's oldest and most profound questions. And it is there a God? Throughout the centuries, individuals and societies have grappled with the concept of a higher power. Now, today we embark on a quest for answers, exploring depths of beliefs, doubt, and enigma of the divine. We've gathered experts and thinkers from various walks of life to delve into this timeless debate. From theologians to atheists to devout believers, we'll bring you diverse perspectives to challenge your own beliefs and provoke deep introspection. Trust and believe me, you don't want to miss this. All right, so as you heard from my intro, my guests are here. Now, two of these gentlemen have been on my radio show before. Pastor Antonio Mitchell and Rev Sean Campbell. Welcome back. And also joining us here is Jevane Samuels. So we're talking about, is there a God? Really and truly.
Sean Major-Campbell.
Can I say that to the camera? In the microphone for me, please, sir? Yes. Say that again. Sean Major-Campbell. Okay. All right. Can we just speak about, okay, you first, Jevane. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in a God? In at all?
No, I don't.
Are you religious?
Spiritual, yes.
What's the difference between spiritualism and religion?
Me, and this is coming from someone who's been in the faith before. It's a case where I'm not binding myself to a singular being, where I am taking my daily cues, going through my daily practices, surrounded by this one person. I tell myself that if there is a greater out there, it is all-encompassing and all-consuming. There isn't one person. I don't believe in a creator or
singular God.
Yeah.
Do you pray?
No, I don't.
Do you worship any at all?
No, I don't.
No. You can go and share the food in the meantime to them something, right? Okay. So you don't pray. Mm-hmm. You went to church before. Mm-hmm. You grew up in a church? Up until what age?
So, my entire family is religious. My father's a deacon, my mother's a deaconess. I was baptized at the age of 8. I was a youth pastor at 14, 15. So when I say I was steeped in church, I was steeped in church. So, up until about 16, church was all I knew. Literally, my daily activities was just school, home, church. Mm. I was at church 7 days a week. I missed nothing.
So during that time, though, at any point you felt like God was working in your favor, God did great things in your life, God was the supreme being, you saw where God can move mountains through prayer and through worshiping, none of that?
So I have a sick joke in my family that I think God made me an accident, so he tries to make my life as hard as it possibly is. Mm. What I hear or what I've seen other people testify in church and speak about all of that, I'm like, him forget me or something? Mm. All of my pray them to pan voicemail or something run at the back because me not see, me not hear, me not know what there. That came to a fore for me when my mom died. Mm. And I remember vividly speaking to an in-church counselor. That was my moment of grief, and I was already having a waning with believing in God. And the words that he said to me kind of sealed it for me. He turned and he said to me, I'm not supposed to question why my mother died. And my last words to him were, are you crazy? And I walked away.
Pastor Mitchell, his story is not unique only to him. Up until last week, I was speaking to somebody. We're not friends, we're just acquaintances. And he was just telling me his experiences with religion and just life in general. What Jevane just said to me hit because the guy also said when his mother passed, he grew up in a church as well. He believed in God. He believed in, the only God that we all worship and pray to. But he felt like when God took his mom, And I know what grief, feels like. My father passed away last year. So I can somewhat relate to when someone close to you dies, you kind of start to question all these things. What he said is after that, it felt like he was just praying to deaf ears. He felt like there was no reason to pray. And I've noticed that a lot of people have the same notion that they don't really see a difference praying or not praying. What's your take on that first? And then we can I'll speak to the Reverend after.
Well, thank you. It's very unfortunate in terms of what happened to you with your mom at that age. And so you would have interpreted, of course, pain. Grief, pain, suffering is a common denominator to humanity. All right. So what happened to my dear friend happens to just about anybody at different age, different situations, different ways. All right. So suffering is not new to any of us. And for you and maybe others who are listening, it may be death, which is kind of a severing or a final. You won't be seeing your mother anymore, or your father, your relative. But there are other things that people are going through as well that are very debilitating, very hurting, and it can numb you. So sometimes we speak out of the numbing or the bad experience that we are experiencing. That does not negate the fact that there is a supreme being and that there is a God somewhere.
Reverend?
Yes, I would agree with that. It's so important to observe that often there is a temptation to rush to silence people in their grief, as if they should carry some guilt for feeling angry.
Yes.
Or some guilt for questioning God. I'm saying it's okay to question God.
Right.
It's okay to be angry with God. It's okay to tell off God. Yes, that's all a part of the human journey.
That's right.
And I think it is unfortunate when I hear of such experiences, not to mention experiences which have come from the context and space of faith. Yes, because many voices of faith, in an effort to show how much they believe in God and they trust God, they quickly shut up others who are not sounding like them. That kind of thing.
Do you think that religion, based on what a lot of us have experienced in church growing up, it's this whole notion of don't question God, or because to be honest with you, I've gone through a period where I've been very angry, right? I was just going through a series of unfortunate events, and I just kind of felt like God was punishing me for whatever reason, and this happened for maybe like an entire year. But I used to just sit down and just be like, well, clearly you hate me. Like I was just talking to God like it was somebody right beside me. Just having a conversation. I wasn't being disrespectful. I wasn't blaspheming, but I was just saying, yo, why am I going through all these things? But religion sometimes, and the church oftentimes, let us think that, well, once you do that, you're supposed to be cast out of the church and you're definitely going to go to hell because how dare you speak to a man of power of that sort. So when you're angry, it's sort of like you cannot be angry, or you should suppress that anger and those emotions.
In the Bible, in the Psalms, in Job, in other parts of the biblical text, that's not what we see. What we see is people wrestling with God,
That's right.
talking with God, and saying, God, I don't understand what you're up to here. And why is it that the righteous suffer and the wicked seem to prosper? These are reasonable concerns and reasonable questions that people have always had.
Yes.
It's just that nowadays we have a thing where many people in the space of church seem to be having a need to present an image of, I have God's cell phone number.
Right.
Yeah.
And I am telling you that this is how you must understand God, and this is what you're supposed to do.
And let me just jump on that, because Kareem, my dear friend, we run the risk of painting a broad brush over religion and church, when the truth is sometimes those who are loudest are most ignorant. Even as relates to the scriptures that we read, I've seen it over the years. So let us not run the risk tonight of painting a broad brush.
Yes.
That church people, that religious people
Right.
are all, thinking a particular way.
Right.
We have some mature people who understands the struggle, life, the cycle of life, death, struggling and asking God questions, as my dear compatriot said earlier.
Yes.
Job asked questions.
Yeah.
He said, I looked to the right, I could not find God. I looked to the left, I could not find him.
Yeah.
In the Psalms as well. So we have, it's a real struggle. Life is about struggle.
Ups and downs.
We were born in it.
Yes.
And we contemplate with these real life struggles.
Let me ask you a question, Jevane.
No problem.
If there isn't a God, how are we here?
And normally the first answer would be, science can prove it.
Yes.
For me, in the same way, my panelists will look to me to say, God created everything. We hang in an uncertainty. At any given moment, we can be sitting here and something is hurling from God knows where and decides to end us all. I view humanity as a coincidence. We have variable unexplained things to this very day that either side, whether it be religious or secular, that cannot explain our existence. While, yes, we have persons like Darwin, we have persons like Martin Luther that would have spoken to evolution, we have scientists like Isaac Newton that would have spoken to what evolution is. We've even had Stephen Hawking, Einstein also speak to what relativity is in terms of our place in the greater size of what the universe is and all. It's all a coincidence. 2 centimeters to the right or to the left, we would have not been here today.
What does it take on that?
All right, so you went to science. Science have proven so much and has pointed to, when at the end of the day, a beginning. And you raise Mr. Darwin, no, Mr. Einstein, who after doing his mathematical stuff, he came to a conclusion that I made the biggest blunder in all my career. You remember that?
Yes.
All right. And the reason why he came to a blunder, because he recognized, of course, if he's going to be authentic in presenting scientific evidence, empirical evidence, everything boils back to a beginning. All right.
We're going back to that same beginning.
Yeah, hold a second. And if there is a beginning, someone was before that cause. All right. So what we're saying here, science is not just some random, flippant, haphazard thing that just happenstance that does take place. It is calculative mathematics, all right, physics, chemistry, the cosmologists, those who study from way back, archaeologists, and everything is pointing to. I could raise a few. Let me just say it to you, my friend, that the fine-tuning of the fundamental force of nature demands explanation. All right? The universe is rationally intelligible, demanding an explanation for its comprehensibility. Right? All right, so it is not something that just happens out of space. I beg to differ with that. So rationally and morality cannot be explained without the existence of God, because it is out of the image of God that we were all created. So I'm just pointing you to some some boulders here, I believe, that we have to get, but maybe we have to flesh out. And science offers many proofs from our physical universe that point to the existence of God. We look there for, and all these noted scientists. Now, the question I want to ask you is why, even though there are questions that are some of the things that we could maybe are not so clear, there is an evidence of a intelligible world. The scripture says, the heavens declare thy glory, and the firmament telleth his handiwork.
Okay.
There's something to point to in terms of an intelligible being behind all of what is taking place.
So, to answer your first question, cosmology speaks to relativities not starting from a singular point. Because if you look at the Big Bang Theory, yes, there was a beginning, but that specificity speaks to the beginning happening everywhere. So there wasn't a singularity within the universe to say this was the point where the Big Bang happened. The Big Bang is just that, a Big Bang. We, at every single point, it speaks to what the universe is. The universe is ever expanding. Yes, it is intelligible, but the same 6 theories that you just used, speaking to an autonomous environment where everything learns and grows on its own, still speaks to the world itself evolving, and we're still not at an apex to say we are a type 1 or type 2 civilization where we can then answer the said questions, the evidence that you're pointing to. I like hyperbole to say that there's evidence, but when I ask, what is that evidence? I've still yet to hear that answer. What is the evidence to show and say that the God that you serve, the God that you speak to as scripture, that was written, edited, and then put out to human beings to digest, is actually visible, real, and there? If you can answer that question, then you can probably sway my mind. If not, we're going back to square one.
All right, scientists also... Okay,
just pause for cause. We're going to just... we're going to take a quick break. Once again, we're talking about is there a God? I really want to hear your response, Reverend, after the break. And I definitely want to hear your response as well after that question thrown there by Jevane. Once again, we're talking about religion and atheists and all sorts of things. But I don't know. Jevane, just let me chip all of it. We're going to take a quick break.
Hi, my name is Joseph Johnson, Executive Chef and owner of Peckish. Peckish is known for our daily delicious lunch service. But what you might not know is that we do catering or catering services for every special occasion that you might have. Your birthday, your baby shower, definitely your wedding, your special day, call us.
All right, welcome back to Boy Things Podcast. So I'm here with my reverend and my good pastor and Mr. Jevane, and this question has been going around for ages, and we can sit here and talk for days and days and days about, is there a God and how we can prove it? But Jevane, you asked a question before the break. I'm just going to let Pastor Campbell and then the Reverend can take that answer. But Pastor Mitchell, sorry, it's gone, man.
No, I want to get back. Yeah, I want to get back.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
What is the evidence to provide that your God is existent?
All right, so I'm going to get back to science. And notice I have not been using much of the Bible. I'm just using science right now. So science reveals the universe is precisely mathematical, designed while allowing for free will. All right? Now, a big problem for evolutionists and atheists is that evolution can't do math. So I'm pointing to something you said earlier about mutation and things just happening randomly. All right, since this is based on variations and mutations, and math requires, my dear friend, an intelligent agent who can first prepare a mathematical blueprint of laws before creating things so that they will be orderly.
Okay.
All right? And that's where I'm coming from. The universe is not some random mutated but carefully thought somebody who is intelligent was behind putting all these different things in place. All All right. And that's what I'm using.
Okay.
All right. This is why the present cosmos can be traced back to mathematical rules. And this is what Mr. Einstein said. The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible.
Mm-hmm.
Let me repeat that. The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. He meant that it could be understood in a mathematical terms, but an explanation for that was beyond math. So by faith, and I'm going to say that to you, and it is said that theology is the queen of all science. Biology comes into play, physics comes into play, botany, all the different ologies come to prove that there is an intelligent being behind all this blueprint, what we are seeing today, not mutation.
Okay.
Our Reverend?
Yes, what Pastor Michelle just shared really affirms quite beautifully the teleological argument, the argument regarding design. It would be difficult for me to not affirm that when I try to comprehend even something as, I don't know if I should use the word simple. That's not the right word. Something, the whole matter of the eye.
Yeah.
The eye and how the eye works and the design and the function. Just the way we are created, how we are made, wonderfully made. The capacity that we have and the capacity of the body to even heal itself and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
For me, that is not just chance. It didn't just happen just so. Yeah. I cannot give you a scientific declaration, and by the way, I'm comfortable with this. I cannot give you a scientific declaration with regards to how I understand God and how I understand and believe that God is. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because it is, and one of the ancient tools of religion is faith.
Yes.
It's very foundational, and it predates the empirical approach. You know, no
Jevane,
surprises.
question. You made mention about the Bible being written and translated and edited. And my question to you is, if you believe in the science or, possibility of, scientists maybe and the Big Bang Theory and all of these things, that information came from where exactly? It was written by man and edited and translated by man as well.
So to answer your question, and to circle back to you. For me,
yes.
I'm not of the assumption that what we have now in front of us in terms of texts or theorems or hypotheses are not without question. They are, and a part of what we as human beings seek to do is to answer the questions that we've already had, or to provide an alternative solution. But to look to say, even though I can't provide it, and I appreciate the honesty to say that, yes, there are just some things that we cannot answer. While others may be fine with that, I'm not. I'm a curious mind. You are not going to ever be able to look at me. And my parents understood this, most times the hardest way possible, that you cannot give me something without context clues and think I'm going to sit and take it. I'm going to rip it apart until I can understand. Now, part of that circles back to what you would have alluded to just now with regards to evolution and the structure that it may have with atheists not being able to provide an answer for it. For me, math does prove a lot of what we have. We are human beings living in a three-dimensional world, looking to break that fourth-dimensional barrier, looking also to find life outside of who we are, because again, we're naturally curious. However, the math that we're using to prove something that Einstein said was comprehensible, Stephen Hawking said his theories were flawed. The same Maclaurin series that we use to prove that there was a beginning, to prove that we're on a linear time frame, also states that we don't know where the end will be. To even go back further into history, Mayans had a calendar that ended in the year 2012 because humans worked on an assumption because of what we have in front of us. A millennia later, that same calendar has been recycled, and what we would have considered the end has not happened. Let's look further up when we had the Y2K bug, where human paranoia came into play again to say the world was going to end because we're now leaving a particular epoch or period that we were certain of, going into a newer one that we were now uncertain of. Fear came into play. The faith that you have, while not misguided, gives persons a false sense of hope to say, I'm able to answer things when there is actually no answer. You're just looking what's ahead. You're kicking the stone further down the road just to see if it's going to be fine. And that's not okay with me.
Okay.
If I might, and I believe he raises some reasonable questions and concerns. And sometimes we take issue with these concerns because of the prevalence of bibliolatry in our culture, which is really the Bible being used in idolatry, in an idolatrous way. And I find that in our cultural context, we miss the fact that the Bible has been through all kinds of stages and phases, being translated, edited, redacted, all kinds of things done with it. In fact, there is evidence that there are texts which have been deliberately either omitted or tweaked from the original translation. Some of what is problematic goes back to the fact that a lot of our English translation was informed by the Latin translation versus going back to the source text of the Hebrew, for example. Things like that, you know. And I know for some people this sounds blasphemous, but the Bible is not the divine. What we have in the Bible is an attempt by human beings to present their understanding and their interpretation of the divine. And we see some certain things happening today in the news, in current news. We will see what's happening in the Middle East. And there is this blind latching on to the text about anyone who, you know, loves Israel will be blessed, and, you know, that kind of thing. And then we get caught up with the whole language of Israel being a chosen nation, forgetting that in Scripture, chosenness, whether of an individual or a nation, is simply based on God's purpose, not because of anything special on your part.
Yes.
But God's purpose, you know. And interestingly, in the Gospels, what do we see? Jesus showing that when the chosen did not do what they were chosen to do, others were chosen.
Yes.
So that's why we have all the parable of the great feast and the great banquet, and, you know, the king had invited these persons, and then they had all these excuses why they couldn't come. So he told his servants, go to the highways and byways and call those people to come. I don't think we understand that in Jamaica. And that is why we have so much bullying and so much stigma, discrimination, and prejudice, all done in the name of religion.
Which is very true.
What is your take on that, Jevane?
It's fascinating hearing someone of the faith, especially the Roman Catholic faith, saying all of this when historically Roman Catholicism would have been an antithesis to a lot of the pain and suffering that others would have had.
By the way, I'm Anglican.
No problem. I'm Catholic. I think most of the
I don't have anything against Roman.
Right.
No, but he's just making it clear, man.
Yes,
For the clarity. Yes.
And it's fine to have that separation because, let's be honest, the God that we're questioning is not a God from another religion. If it was Hinduism, we have 330 million to choose from. We could have a field day doing this and we'd still not get over it. Buddhism doesn't even have a God. They just believe in the 5 pillars. Taoism does the same thing. And I can list on and on and on. But
Right.
Christianity is the only monotheistic religion that focuses on one supreme being, and that supreme being is not only vengeful, but jealous. The same Bible that we read that speaks of the sermon with the 5 loaves and fish. If you go into Kings, he's the same God that told Elijah to push Jezebel off a windowsill and have dogs eat her in front of people to prove his vengefulness. This is the same God that had firstborns thrown into a lake to be killed because he was upset. This is the same God that had his own chosen. He was having a tantrum and put them in the wilderness for 40 years. How am I to believe someone that is that vengeful? The same love that we preach, he doesn't offer it. And there's an old trope, there's no hate like Christian love. And more times than not, we see it. And it's not even bound to just our country, it's international.
All right, so the question, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
So the question here, what's my friend's name again?
Jevane.
Jevane.
Yes.
Jevane.
Mhm.
The question here is, I understand the, and my comparison, the irregularities that we have in Christendom, the different denominations, the different practices, different days that we worship, food, and all different kind of things. All right, I understand that, and those are reasonable arguments that you're raising, eloquently. But the question on the table is, do we believe that there's a God? So the vengeful, the good, the bad. Do we believe that there's a God who is in charge of being originator of life? Because one of the things is scientists can't prove how life began. They don't have a code apart from an originator. There has to be, that's what I want to get back to. There has to be an originator.
But
There has to be someone who, and my compatriot raised it earlier, about life in and of itself. So all of these variables in terms of practices and customs, I agree with you that there are a lot of irregularities. Notwithstanding, the question on the table is, do we believe that there's a God?
But
I believe.
to your very same question, and you said that science can't prove because there's no code. Our religion has to offer is, in the beginning, the world was created. That's not an explanation as to how the world came into being. If you're going to tell me that there's an originator, what is your origin story?
Well, if you have a watch, and this is not duplication now. This is starting from nothing. El Neo, out of nothing. God created something. All right? For every single, is the principle, the principle is that if you have a watch on your hand, somebody made it.
Okay.
All right? before the world began, there's got to be someone before that who started the world.
Okay.
That's my argument.
All right.
All right.
So my follow-up question to you is, yes, let's use the analogy. This bottle is here. We know who created the bottle, right? Now, this bottle has an origin story.
Mm-hmm.
We know the polyurethane that makes the plastic, it comes from minerals. We know that water, a finite substance, was filtered, put in the bottle was corked, sealed, and then sold to human for consumption. That's its origin story, right?
You came into this world.
How do you quantify nothingness? If we're looking at it purely on a mathematical basis, you cannot enlarge, you cannot quantify, you cannot encapsulate nil. Theta, a mathematical term, speaks to nothing. So if you cannot give nothing a meaning, and if we're using the structure of free will to say, even before
Right.
consciousness on its own speaks to one thing, and autonomousness to speak to who you are as a person. No, your belief in God is based on your understanding, your autonomous understanding of who you are. My atheism is that autonomy to say that while I respect what you are giving, you cannot sway me to say, based off of faith and a manufactured book that has edits in it that skewed towards a personal feeling to prove that there's
I've not even gone to a book yet.
No, but we're
I have
using,
we're using
methodologies at this
I'm not
point,
using.
and the
I've not even used the
methodologies-
Bible yet.
That's fine.
Right.
And
I'm reasoning from principle.
and I'm reasoning from principle as well. While I have an origin story, the bottle has an origin story, even the very same space we in has an origin story. Until religion can supersede science to say, here is a verified origin story. The stool that you're standing on has no legs.
Reverend?
Well, just to know that there's an interesting, if I might even say unnecessary conflict between a biblical myth and science. The expression in the beginning is not a scientific expression in terms of the Genesis myth of creation. And this, again, is difficult for many in the space of church to hear the language. But it's not unique to the Hebrew scriptures to have mythology. And the purpose of mythology in religion is really to do an attempt at explaining something. And that explanation was actually not a scientific statement. Yeah? But it doesn't mean that those who were doing that were idiots. They were simply working under the limitations, at the time. As I mentioned earlier, I do not seek to suggest for one moment that I can do a scientific presentation to prove God, and I'm fine with that.
Yes.
To come back to an observation you were making about, this jealous God, so on and so forth. Something that I think I find valuable too is that in Scripture we see an evolution in theological thought. So there are things in Old Testament tradition which evolved as the texts grew. Yes. So you will see, for example, there was a time when they were told, the parents have eaten sour grapes, children's teeth are set on edge, and the whole thing of the generations be paying for what the previous generations did and all that sort of thing. But then as you read on, you eventually come up on a section that says, let this proverb no more be said among you. You are no longer being told that you are suffering because of the sin of your grandparents. That kind of thing. In other words, there is evolution in theological thought, the way God is understood. Again, affirming the fact that human agency is a big thing in this text. Yeah?
So, my question then.
Go ahead.
I'm willing to play devil's advocate.
Nothing short of them.
I'm willing to play devil's advocate. As I said in the top of the conversation, I'm not a hardline atheist that's going to get up and say there is no God, there is no God, there is no God, because there is no God. In order for me to understand something, I must first be a part of it. So I need to be immersed in it. I need to know what it is to be that thing. And that is how I apply myself in life. And in the almost 16 years of me being a devout Christian, my one question has always been this. And I think I questioned persons in the church and I never got an answer for it. So I'm happy that I have this forum tonight. If there is a evolution in theological text, that puts a fallibility on an infallible God, on a God that was before time immemorial, that is still present in time now and in time to come. Why, as a religion, are you scaling the unscalable and then purporting a incomprehension of what is in front of you? Because basically what it is telling me is that I can't understand what is in front of me, so I'm going to give it a human caricature, but I'm going to then say I'm okay with not understanding. That's akin to living in two states. And that's where confusion always is, because when I ask for an origin story, I'm asking for it from that point of view.
I don't think it's okay to just be comfortable with not understanding. I think it's okay to have questions. It's okay to want to understand. I also would recognize that the fallibility issue is not God. The fallibility issue is human beings who are trying to understand this God, trying to talk about this God, trying to talk about their experience. Yeah? And religious texts, the Bible no less, came out of tribal contexts. So we see a lot of tribal thinking. And my God is better than your God, and that type of thing. And my war is being blessed by God. And, you know, all of that is tribal thinking. And so I am maintaining that in our age and time, in 2023, I do not believe it is sufficient to limit ourselves to tribal thinking, tribal interpretations, tribal presentations. I am saying we must be open to evolve.
Yeah, and I like that. But how do we now throw this into the conversation of experiential knowledge? I have been to Atlanta in an ecumenical service where I was told not to call the name Jesus in my sermon. My notes were read over, vetted. And while I was preaching, so you have Muslims, Hindus, you name it, ecumenical service. And while I was preaching, because I'm used to calling the name Jesus in the sermon, of course, it was stringent instruction.
Yes.
Don't.
Right.
All right. And I remember in the sermon I was preaching, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. And I remember I declared, when I said it, and I'm stuttering, I don't have a stutter, but because of the context,
Yes.
and I could not help myself, it came out. He's a healing Jesus in that atmosphere. And a gentleman who was from the Muslim religion for 84 years, was born and grown and everything in it, shouted way over the auditorium. He was born blind, never seen his mother, never seen himself. It was his son who carried him to the meeting. No, when they carried he wanted to say something, or they wanted to express what was taking place. And the gentleman who invited me was actually beckoning to me that somebody wanted to say something, and I was shaking because of what I told you before. And he said, "It's all right. Give me the mic. I've got something to say." The gentleman testified that when the name of Jesus was called, the scale, whatever happened, fell from his eyes, and he who could not see for 84 years was able to see. How do I explain that? A Hindu woman who grew up in Hindu for 40 odd years had cervical cancer. Dying. And she's not able to say the name of Jesus, believe in Jesus. However you want to call him. All right? And she said, going through the process, her mother could not hear, but she said she was about to die. And she said in herself, Jesus, if you are Jesus that I'm hearing about, can do something for me, heal me, I will serve you for the rest of my life. On that bed. It's not my testimony, that's what she says. Start-born Hindu with all the different gods that you named earlier. And she said when she prayed that prayer, she felt a heat warming in her stomach, cervical cancer. The following morning, she got, when the doctor came and checked her, there was not a trace of it. Experiential knowledge. So I may not be able to articulate and defend science. I'm not a scientist. But for what I can tell you, I believe that there is a God who is responsible for this life that science cannot, they don't know how it came about. I believe that yes.
For me, what is, for me, and maybe because I also travel with some degree of skepticism.
Yeah.
Something I would find problematic is, why would God do this for her but ignore so many others?
I'm so glad you said that.
Right. And again, God, man of God, if we believe that God is sovereign, he does what he wills, when he wills it. And that I cannot answer.
That is something I have a problem with.
Yes.
I have a huge problem with it because...
So hold a second, before Doc, why you have a problem with that? You don't believe in divine healing? No, just because we are here talking.
Let me tell you why I have a problem. I have a problem with it because I'm saying if you
yes,
could heal other persons
I was not
who are asking for healing,
right?
Wouldn't you do it?
Yes.
Does that therefore raise a question about the morality of God? You see where I'm going?
Because for me, it's the same thing. It's the selectivism.
No, all right. So I'm bringing to the table.
No, we're speaking about
what
experiential
I have seen.
experience.
Yeah, man.
We're speaking about
what I have seen with my own eyes.
We're speaking about the isms of what? Or existence of who God is to us. Who God is in his essence. Because the very point of the question, the moot of the question is there a God? No. While we look at it from a purely progenital state to say, from a singularity to where we are now in terms of an ever-expanding universe.
Right.
We can spend hours speaking on that.
Exactly.
Morality, speaking to who God is to you in your day-to-day experience and what history shows us that God is or what he's not. I have a particular issue with miracles because a lot of the champions of Christendom were crucified for those same miracles. Mary of Assisi was cast out of her village because she was having signs and visions in a cave in France,
Right.
and she helped people, and those same persons turned on her. Joan of Arc, again, devout Christian, led crusades, conquered lands in God's name, only to be burned at a stake for her said religion. England as a whole was Roman Catholic and a devout Christian nation, turned Protestant and almost wiped out Christianity on a whole
Right.
in that same continent. And the very same Messiah that you had told 12 people, one of you are going to sell me out to my very same enemies to have me hung on a
Yeah,
cross.
but does it negate
to-
the fact that
to
it
claim
happened
sins.
though? Does it negate the
How
fact that
do we prove that it happened? Because again, we're looking at the ism of a person. I wasn't there, so how can I prove that what you're
All right,
saying
so
is
that's
true?
what,
What scales are there?
All right, so for the dignity of the convo we have.
No, I'm asking a general
no,
question.
so I'm saying,
though.
yeah, man. So what I'm saying, scientists, doctors who have studied in particular areas, diagnose a particular sickness. The symptoms are there. All right. They give these persons different times to die, unallotted time to die. And after praying, all right, to the unseen, the intangible, believing that there's a God somewhere, they held on to faith. And that was their experience. All right? And they now come back and they tell you, doctors also tell you that this is what happened. How can you? This is subjective. This is my miracle.
Yes. But on that note and on that miracle, we're going to take a break. Whoa, what a... I'm just here, just listening to every single thing. And, both parties do have, some points. And I'm glad that, Reverend here could point that out about his own skepticism about, some of the things in the Bible and some of the miracles. Whoa, made a spin. Let's go take a break and come back to the conversation. Thought-provoking conversation here on Boy Things Podcast. Final break of the evening.
Hey guys, it's Chavez Bridge and I'm here with some great news. The Ambassador Program is finally here. Go on the website, click Become an Ambassador and check out the requirements. Do you have what it takes to become an ambassador? Always wanted to work with the Bridge, work with great products, share our platform, show us your talents. Check out how to become an ambassador on our website. I look forward to seeing you. Let's work.
All right, welcome back to this thought-provoking journey of humanity's oldest and most profound question: is there a God? We still have here Pastor Mitchell, we have Rev Sean Major-Campbell and Jevane. Now, where were we? Because we're going to wrap now, because as I was saying to you, that what I can respect about this conversation is that there's so many valid points being thrown around. And I personally, as I've said before, I do believe that there's a God. I mean, scientists cannot prove, either with all of their miscalculations and all these things, they still can't prove where humanity came from, really and truly. So am I supposed to have faith in men, or am I supposed to have faith in something that seems more credible? So that's just my stance. Like, I have personal experiences. But Jane, I must just say, I've had this conversation about 4 times on my platform. And you are the most, you're the most, I could sit here and just be like, that this is a good point.
He has done his homework.
You're the most convinced one of anybody else. Let me not tell a lie.
Yeah.
Not to discredit anyone else, but I'm just saying, like, you, rightfully so, Reverend, he has done his homework. Like, he obviously reads a lot, and you're really paying attention to both the Bible and both to science, and you're trying to piece it all together. And there are many other people out there like you, and this is the reason I wanted to also do this topic, because once again, it's not new under the sun. Like, this
And I
topic
see
has
you've
been
been
covered
listening
many
to
times.
Hawkins and
But him doing things, man, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
For me, I have to respect a person's religion.
And that's what I can appreciate
If I'm
with
going to
you.
question you,
Yes.
I'm going to give you the appreciation for you to be able to defend your points.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same end, if you're going to defend your points, we need to have a conversation as to why those are defensible. They're indefensible or defensible in the first place. So I respect both gentlemen.
Some of my good friends, by the way, and this is not talk for the sake of talk, some of my good friends are atheists.
Yes. Yeah. But let's ask one final question, Jevane. If the science that you believe in, there's so many contradictions, so many different great scientists who are, in this world who've maybe done research and, can't really find the beginning. But you can somewhat believe in that more than a religion or a Bible. Why not just say, well, the same way how they can't prove it, the religion or Christians can't really prove where there's a God, but you would prefer to believe in man who also studies and maybe, try to calculate and, try to add and try to divide and multiply. But there's really still no definite answer as to where humanity and this world came from based on what you believe in. So a lot of people who may be watching, they can also derive at that, say, but I mean, technically, just the same way how, religion doesn't have a definite answer as to where God, came from, or, which part God did there, before Earth. It's the same thing that, scientists also cannot prove. Mm-hmm. What would you say to those people quickly?
There is a saying, I don't remember who said it. Faith without religion is dead. Religion without faith is false. I don't believe that one can survive without the other. There is a duality that has to be maintained because, as again, human existence derives on the fact that where one falls short, another picks up on. Christianity, for the better part of almost 2 millennia, has been a primary source of where, or origin story of where God came from. Science picked up on the back half. What science is doing is to proving some of those points that was given out before. Now, if, again, I am able one day to get a definitive answer or close enough to a definitive answer, I will accept it. But for me, the same faith-based walk through life that Christians do, I have that same coincidental thought. Because at any given moment, we are walking in danger at every single moment. Nothing about this, however precise it is not without its faults. It is not without its endpoints. The earth that we live in, while perfectly unique to us, is the most hostile environment that human beings can ever be in. Gravity tears at us at every single turn. The environment itself is caustic to us. We are not even considered apex predators on our own planet that we are colonizing, destroying, rebuilding to make it comfortable for us. That speaks to autonomy for me, and that's autonomy and free will from a human standpoint, not from a monotheistic standpoint.
Okay. Pastor Mitchell, we could go around in circles for hours and hours. Can you just give us your final thoughts to the persons who may be on the fence watching right now, to the persons who may be questioning their faith right now? You're a man of strong faith. I've had many conversations with you on my platforms, 2 conversations now. Can you just give us your final thoughts, your final words on this? Is there a God topic?
Thanks again for having me.
No, but anytime.
I really
just believe me.
enjoy this, and I'm open, all right,
Yes.
for conversation.
All right, boss.
Appreciate you tonight, sir, my friend. All right, so if there's a creation, there must be a creator.
Amen.
That's simple what we're saying. Scientists, and even for the last 100 years, and in a very robust way, the last 50 years, 20 years, it's proven more and more that there was a definitive point through mathematics, through science, through physics, chemistry, and the different scientific approaches, that there was a definitive time that the world began. And again, when you look at creation, somebody with a mastermind, somebody with much intelligence must be behind this. I prefer to believe, with all of these different pointers, that there is a creator somewhere.
Okay. Reverend, your final words, sir.
Just to say that I really believe that God is life, is truth, is love, and that wherever we manifest righteousness, peace, love, and justice, we are helping to manifest to the kingdom of God.
Okay. Jevane, your turn. Final words on this topic. By the way, you once again. Yeah. Love the discussion, man. Go ahead.
Whomever is the God that is out there, I implore him to do two things. Give a greater understanding to the human race and show what actual compassion is. That is how I will believe.
Okay, well, there you have it. Is there a God? Comment below your thoughts. There should be a part 2 on this. Because
You said that last time.
right? I did say that last time, but this is a part 2, so there should be a part 3 now, Reverend. Once again, thank you to these very intelligent young men. Yeah, young men. Tonight, I really do appreciate this conversation. I was blown away, literally. I was lost for words at points. Once again, thank you all for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share the video. And comment below your thoughts. And thank you to each and every person. That's a wrap. Good night. Science gives man knowledge, which is power. Religion gives man wisdom, which is control. On that note, just pay attention. Believe in what you must. Do not discriminate against others. Everyone has a right to their own opinion. Yes? Now, I must just say thank you to everyone who's watched this video. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment your views and your thoughts. Yeah? Once again, big up to my big bad sponsor, Bridge Official. You can go ahead and anything I would tell you on by 30% off, 35% off. Just using things, Boya Things, any things. Karim Boya Things Podcast, Boya Things After Dark. You understand? Also, Studio 45. My production team, every single thing, lighting, whatever it is that you may need. To all my podcasters, content creators, everybody, this is the place to go. Tell them, say, I'm me, say, no. You understand? Hey, also, to Peckish 876, yes, whether for your wedding, baby shower, funeral, 9 nights, whatever it is, yes, they can cater for you. Just tell them, say, Boy Things, and you get a free appetizer for all your orders. Yeah? To my entire team, thank you so much. Remember, you're great. You have a purpose. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Keep going. Yeah, things from Karim Boy Things until next week, Sunday. This is Boy Things Podcast.